Excellent. Yeah. And Mason, let's raise that hand. Excellent.
Oh, any hand raisers in chat?
Yo, Conan, can you speak?
Test.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Let's go underway and start the recording. This should be excellent.
Okay, Conan, let's hear it. Why is killing animals amoral?
Yeah,
Sorry,
as
sorry. Can I ask one clarifying question before you
sure.
start?
Go ahead.
Okay, do you think are you saying that killing animals as an action is like always amoral, or it's like inherently amoral?
Uh, it is uh, only if something other, only some other connection to uh, morally valuable, let's say, agent, such as can give animal value, such when animals are viewed as property rather than uh, in themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. Sure. I'm fine with debating that. So yeah, let's get into it. I guess. Do you want to expand on that at all, or can I just start asking questions?
Uh, yeah, I can explain for a bit.
All right, you got it.
So I think that philosophy dealing with morals is outdated, and I don't think that through moral philosophy we can get to any truths or anything, to any truth that would be applicable to any situation, including killing of animals. Um, I also find that, this is linked because it will probably come up, that sentience is not the key to moral value. Um, I think that and I think that for us to understand moral value, we need to do anthropological, psychological, biological, and sociological research, and
Okay.
find if there is some common things that
Yeah. So
could be
what's going
called
to
morality.
constitute like something that has moral value?
Something that has moral value is simply something that something that is a part of the moral system. And
Gotcha. And
like,
what's the moral system we're using here to exclude animals from?
we are we are not. I don't think that when you say excluding animals, it kind of sounds like there is a purpose behind. Uh, I'm simply saying that how I see the moral system to exist, if it exists, I'm not. I think that there is more evidence for it existing than for it not existing, but it's not at all conclusive. It's simply the case that if describe how it I think that it is and how I describe it, simply animals are not part of it.
Gotcha. How are we describing it then? Like, let's be more specific about it. What types of things are going to constitute moral consideration?
Uh, yeah, well, I think that morality is just a set of behavior rules in society, and I don't think like in a particular society, but human society in general, which and that it is that it comes to existence from certain evolutionary traits that were randomly selected for.
Gotcha. I think I'm fine with that. You don't think there's a set of behavioral rules against killing animals?
No, not moral rules. No, there
Gotcha.
can the only
There are a set of behavioral rules, right? So we call those laws, right? So,
yeah,
I mean,
laws are further down. They are, let's say, I think that laws are, first of all, like history of law is a bit problematic to analyze because basically laws just build on the older law and that was built on the older law. No, not older, sorry, but older. Um, and basically it goes up, all goes in like murky things when we don't have like a written way, written like origin for laws, which just have the oldest recorded laws, and then basically they just build and reference the older ones. Um, I think that laws come from more pragmatic and they have more pragmatism and higher design that morality does. I think that
Gotcha.
laws
So,
are. Sorry?
sure, sure, that's fine. We don't have to be like super specific, I guess. Do you think do you think it would be beneficial for society to have some sort of behavioral rules against like I don't know, murdering people?
Uh, what do you mean beneficial? I mean, uh,
Do you think it's going to cause like more people to experience good things, more people to be happy?
I think that I personally think that it would increase my safety, and that's something that I want. So uh, I don't see what's the point of this question.
Gotcha. I agree. I think generally people would be happier. I think generally people would be safer. Would probably kind of have a net positive effect on
I mean,
people's well-being.
that's okay. You can. I don't particularly uh, care that much what other people want to think, unless they are like
Gotcha. Well, when we discuss
research to
morality,
me.
it's a set of behavioral rules that dictate society or that come from society or
They don't really. No, I don't think that that is a set of rules that dictates anything. I just think that it is a pattern, more a pattern of behavior. Um, it is the morality. Oh, sorry, let me explain. So morality is a system, and but it doesn't dictate. Dictate is maybe a strong word. Um, like let's say it like this. I think that morality is present. Now, to say that it dictates is I think that because people have proclivity to act in a certain way, a subset of that way would be considered moral when it deals with.
right. How do we determine? I asked you earlier how we determine what types of things have moral consideration, right? Um, and all I really got was okay, like morality is like kind of a a set of behavioral rules in society, right? So now I'm curious, do you know what types of actions are going to be considered good? Like, how do we come to a conclusion
Well,
on
not
what
good. I let me just okay. I maybe it would be easier to explain how it came to this. Uh, so I was interested in morality, and I didn't like any of the moral systems that I was presented with. So I started looking at like all the cultures that I have the access to via internet and anthropological data, blah blah. It's a large set. Um, and I just noticed that there are only a couple of universal quote unquote laws. It's not like law, like legal things, but often it is, but it is simply that people uh, uh, don't kill, don't steal, and don't assault, and that's like the main things. Other humans, even though it could be beneficial for them to do so, and they punish those who do those three things, and those are the main things. And those are the things that they have the most evidence for. So only those those teachings are can be considered in the area of morality because I think that there is only those three things are what for which the data exists.
Gotcha. So just so we get this down, killing, stealing, and assaulting are like the three things here that are
Those are the
um,
only things that there is enough data that I'm confident or willing to make the claim.
what about if I like I don't know. Let's say I find somebody online, right? And I really don't like them, so I dox all of their information online, right? And then I don't know. I create like fake porn of them and put it online, right? And I put like their address online, and I tell people to come to their house, and then somebody goes to their house and rapes them, right? Um, and then I continue to do this, and people continue to go to their house and rape them, and then they end up killing themselves. Would you say that like the thing that I'm doing probably like is just like amoral, right?
Um, I have no data for your involvement in that action. For the person that actually does the rape, I have the data that I can call it. But for your interaction, simply I don't have enough data to call it.
You would agree then if I dox somebody, right, and I get people, I even suggest to these people, hey, you should go to this person's house and you should rape and kill and torture them, right? And then this happens like several times from several people I've suggested, and
Well, if you suggest or encourage, that could be considered like taking part in the action.
Gotcha. So what if I'm doing it but I'm not suggesting it, right? But it's only happening because I'm doing it. I'm putting all of their information online.
For that action, I don't have enough data to call.
Wait, say it again.
I don't have enough data. Not that your hypothetical doesn't have enough data. I don't have enough data to see that action is or it isn't moral.
What kind of data would you need?
I would need basically centuries of people's opinions, legal practice, laws, cultural impact, and I just don't have it. I have like a decade or two, and that's of basically a single culture.
You have no idea whether me doxing all of somebody's information online, right, on, I don't know, like rape websites, right, like rape.com, where what people do on there is they dox all their information, they dox people's information online so that other people can go and like rape those people, right? But I'm not suggesting it to these
Well,
people.
in that case,
You have no idea whether that action of me like doxing all their information, putting their address on rape.com, and causing people to rape them, you have no idea whether that's going to be like a bad action.
well, putting that on rape.com could be considered taking part in the action, but for you to dox and put, I don't know, Sebi's address on this server, I don't think that there is any evidence for that to be considered immoral. People don't have the data for it.
If I take part in the action, if I'm in the big causal loop of the action happening, right? That's gonna be the wrongdoer there. Maybe we want to say something like if I know that I'm in the causal loop of that action happening, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry, I thought that there was like something other coming from.
Oh no. I just want to get a basis of where we're at, right? Because the way that you're talking about morality seems really weird, right? So when you said something like, oh, like it's only going to be like the only things that are going to be considered wrong are like, I don't know.
Well, not wrong. Wrong is a different word. I don't like using the word good.
The only things that are going to be considered morally, right, are going to be like murder, stealing, and I think you said something else.
Assault.
What was it?
Assault.
Oh yeah, an assault. Just seems a little bit weird, right? Because I think there are a lot of these other proxy things that we can do that will cause, negative impacts on people's well-being, right?
I'm
not murdering, stealing, or assaulting anybody by, doxing all of somebody's information online and causing them to be assaulted, right?
Yeah.
We take part in that.
Look, there is possibility that there are other things that trigger the moral instinct, that evolutionary trait that I mentioned. But simply, I don't have. Let me finish my sentence. But simply, I don't have the data for anything other than these three to call. But I do have the data on killing animals, because the killing animals has been going on for as long as there is data.
Cool. So I don't know if that's relevant, right?
Well, that is relevant. That's like the topic. Like killing animals is the topic.
Is that gonna be the reason that we know it's wrong because it's been going on?
No, that's the reason we know that it is okay.
The reason we know it's not wrong. Sorry, it's been going on like since forever. It's just been happening forever.
It is a part of it. It is also the part that it does not have any contradictions. So there is very little to none of cultures which prohibit killing of animals as in animals. There are a few cultures, but they are extremely rare. They do it on the basis of non-violent action, rather than basically they're trying to be quote unquote consistent, but religion is
It seems like it's just gonna be easier instead of looking at what cultures do, to look at the types of things that culture or the types of reasons that are gonna be motivating cultures to do the things that they do, right? And
yeah.
then applying those things to moral instinct, right? So, for example, right, cultures it was not the case that generally cultures would prohibit slavery for a very long time. Generally, cultures did the opposite. Cultures encouraged slavery for a very long time, right? And now we can say now that we have some sort of like data to suggest that slavery is bad because most cultures prohibit it now, right? But back then, I think we also had the data to say that slavery was bad, and the data was causing suffering to other people was probably considered generally bad by other cultures, and the justifications that they were using for slavery weren't very good, right? There were alternative farming and industrial practices that we had available to us, right? And the justifications that they were using about the people, right? Like dehumanizing people, these were just like incorrect, right? Saying that these people were like functionally robots, or saying that these people like mattered less because of their skin color, or that they're like made for it, whatever. All the justifications that people are using are kind of shitty, right?
Uh,
So I would say
yeah.
that even then, when every single culture, not every single one, but when a vast majority of cultures were enslaving people, that we had the data to say that slavery was wrong, right? And that's why there were abolitionist groups, and that's why there was progress made, right? That's actually the only way we can make progress, right? If we
You
look at what the majority of cultures are doing, and we say, okay, we don't really have the data to suggest that what the majority of cultures is doing is wrong, progress is never going to be made, right? So we can do that, and we can look at the data, and the data seems to suggest that causing suffering to sentient things generally isn't permitted or acceptable. Most people are not cool with raping animals, right? Most people are cool with eating animals because it seems like eating animals is just something that's traditional and normalized, right? And traditional things that are traditional and normalized tend to have really bad like post hoc justifications for doing so because people are used to it and people don't want to give up things that they're used to.
okay? I think you have very American-centric view on slavery. Slavery or rationalization of slavery in that way was pretty unique to like later stages of enlightenment in like the beginning of the 19th, ending of 18th century. Um, and if you go through the history of slavery, slavery was practiced through taking war prisoners, or raiding, or simply selling yourself or your family into slavery for monetary gain.
Yeah,
And
I agree that chattel slavery wasn't like super incredibly popular. I don't think most cultures did chattel slavery. It was kind of unique to America. But there were there are other forms of slavery or like indentured servitude that we'd absolutely vast majority of cultures consider wrong today. That I assume you consider wrong today.
uh,
That were extremely popular.
yeah, just because one culture, or I don't know how many cultures I would distinguish today due to extreme globalization, but that one view of one culture doesn't mean much in the data sets, right? I would have to give a great ponder to the current culture, and I don't have any reason to do so. Uh, uh,
No, listen, it's going to be the case that the majority of cultures were okay with some form of like slavery or extremely strong coercion or exploitation in terms of labor, right?
yeah, I mean that is
Right, which
the correct.
we would say is not good.
Uh, we would probably dislike it, yes. So
Wait, say it again?
yeah, we would dislike it. So
Yeah,
and
kind of triggers our moral instinct, right?
uh,
I
I,
think,
I think that what triggers moral instinct is not the legal, basically legal status of slavery. What triggers the moral instinct is probably what triggered the moral instinct then, and which people who had slaves
no,
talk
that's
about
not
it,
true.
and that is assault.
A vast majority of people, I don't know about you, but a vast majority of people are not cool with the idea of owning somebody and having them as a slave but treating them nicely. Most people are not cool with that.
I don't have the data for it, and even if I look, even if
Well,
you
I
ask,
do.
wait,
The data I have for it is
let me let me finish the sentence. It is also like you need to consider the honesty of the people answering the question. it would be very culturally inappropriate to say it. But I think that what is abhorrent in slavery now and then, and you can see it in when you look at um, abolitionist, not propaganda in a negative way, but what people focused on, and that was the assault, killing, and stealing. People were
No, so
stolen from.
abolitionists were not focused on treating slaves badly. Most abolitionists, really, I don't know if any popular abolitionists were arguing for people to treat their slaves better. People were arguing for people to not have slaves. That's like
Yeah,
the
because
primary feature
they
of abolitionism.
because they
It's not it's not because people were treating their slaves badly. It's because people were having slaves. That was the big moral issue there.
Yeah, because the slavery in itself is you cannot if you put this three if you limit killing, stealing, and assault from the slavery, then you cannot have slavery, right? Because uh, only way to compel somebody to be a slave is to assault.
That's just not true.
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean that's
indoctrinate
absolutely.
people. No, it's not. You can indoctrinate people into generally. I wouldn't even call it being fine with. You can sort of you can indoctrinate people with the threat of assault, right? You could say like, hey, like we will kill you if
Well,
you
that's I
step out
mean
of
that's
line,
assault.
right? You you yeah you can. I mean maybe you would just call that assault. I wouldn't call that assault, right? Right. You could threaten somebody, say we'll kill you if you step out of line, right? You can indoctrinate people, right? To think that that's all that they're able to do, right? Like there's no place left for them in outside society, right? So despite the fact that they're experiencing like an extreme amount of suffering, they think that if they go, they're either going to have to like live in the forest or be like murdered by police officers or slave patrol or whatever else is going on, right? So
Yeah, and now you
there's
again
plenty of ways
using.
to do it. There's plenty of
Yeah,
ways to do
and
it
you
to
now and
avoid.
you again now just use murder, right, or killing. Mhm.
Okay, so again, I didn't. I didn't say you murder or you kill the slave.
Oh no,
What I
you will
said
say
is,
that they will
no,
get
no,
killed by
no.
the
What I said
slave
is,
patrol.
what I said is that you can indoctrinate people, right? So it's not even actually indoctrination. This happened a lot in the American South, right, where slaves weren't aware for a while, and I mean it just wasn't the case for a while that the North was a safe haven for slaves. And even when it became one, slaves weren't aware for a while that the North was a safe haven. So they thought that if they left their slave masters, they just have to live in the woods, being hunted down by slave patrol or authorities for the rest of their life, right? And that they just die in the woods or be killed by slave patrol, right? I'm not saying that they're killing the slaves to keep them in line there. Even the threat of doing it, even believing that it's going to happen, is the thing that does it, right? And I agree, killing them is bad, but threatening them and coercing them into saying, saying and doing labor for you, that's also bad, right? Like we
I
can't do
mean
that.
assault.
Listen,
Look,
the point
no,
being,
no, you're like
listen, hold on. The point being, because it's really important that we actually get to the point, is that a lot of cultures were pretty fine with slavery. A lot of cultures were pretty fine with a lot of bad stuff, right? But we had the data at the time to say, and I do genuinely think we had the data at the time where most cultures were okay with slavery, or even if we want to get to more specific examples that we have less contention with, right? Most cultures were fine with sexist practices, right? I don't know if we want to dispute that, but like if we take it to be the case that most cultures were fine with like sexist practices or slavery or mistreating children, like plenty of things that a lot of cultures were fine with, or a majority of cultures were fine with, right? I would say that even at the time where a majority of cultures were fine with it, we had the data, moral data to say, or data that's going to be relevant to moral facts, to say that these things were wrong, right? And the data is, well, these things are causing like significant suffering to people that's unnecessary and that doesn't really benefit anyone, right?
I
That's gonna be the big one.
I disagree with basically all that you said right now. I think that when you say mistreat of, let's say mistreat of children, mistreatment is culturally relative. If you look to history, those three things, killing, assaulting, and stealing, were considered undesirable and were not permitted in the cases unto
Wait,
children.
sorry, you don't think people were permitted to assault their children? Assaulting your children is like still kind of permitted. I mean, it's literally like the most permitted action against your children. For a while it was. Like assaulting your children is like the number one form of discipline, right? Like you beat your kids to keep them in line, right? To so that they don't like misbehave, right? Like negative reinforcement. It was like it's like extremely popular. It was extremely popular in most cultures for a really long time.
Disciplining and insulting can be, um, it is, I admit, it is a fine line, but it can be differentiated.
I agree it can be differentiated, but the way that we differentiate that isn't well. What does the culture permit, right? The way that we differentiate that is how much harm is being caused to the kid, right? So if you're disciplining your kid by grabbing them and throwing them against the wall and then beating them senseless until they pass out,
Yeah,
it doesn't really
exactly.
matter.
The level of assault is
It doesn't really
relevant.
matter. It doesn't really matter whether the culture that you're in or whether a majority of cultures thinks that's relevant, right? One, if it's not going to be conducive to the kid's well-being, and two, if it's not going to be conducive to your well-being, right? It's just not. It's just not going to be a good thing. Like very clearly, we can call that like some form of assault and not some form of discipline because it's not helping the kid, right? It's not getting them not to do the action. Even if it does get them not to do the action, it's not going to help them in the long term, right? Which is the point of discipline. And it's not helping you
Not
either, right?
necessarily.
Well, almost necessary. I would say beating the shit out of your kid until they pass out probably isn't helping them in the long term. Not necessarily. Maybe there's like one or two cases where that did help their kids in the long term. My guess would be that those cases don't exist, or that if they do, they're extremely rare. So
Yeah, I would also like to say that there is, of course, greater and the breaking of moral system has, of course, degrees, and like assault has degrees, and while small levels of quote unquote assault or this could be quote unquote excuse for the purpose of discipline, heavy assaults were never or very
heavy
rarely.
assault. Sorry, you don't think forms of assault were excused for discipline, or what do you mean by heavy assault?
Uh, Basically, beatings to the point of, as you said, unconsciousness.
Yeah. I don't think that was a super culturally popular thing.
Yeah, so
Other
that's
people
point
think
for
it's
me.
culturally popular to like punch your kid or like beat them with a belt, or like smack them in the face. Like those were all really culturally popular for a while.
Yeah,
And
they were,
I would say that's a form of
and
assault. We have research to suggest that that doesn't actually benefit the kid, right? This research is going to be relevant. The fact that it doesn't benefit the kid is going to be relevant, right?
preach
Those are
'em.
the relevant factors. So again, when we're talking about okay, or when you say okay, well, I don't really have the data to determine, or I have the data to determine that killing animals is going to be okay because almost every human culture does it throughout history, right? Well, that's just not going to be relevant because it could be the case that in the future, no human culture is going to do it, right? Same thing with a lot of bad things that were pretty excused throughout history. It became the case that they're not excused anymore, or maybe that they're still excused and shouldn't be, but a lot of them, right? It is the case that they're not excused anymore. So appealing to what most cultures do probably just isn't super helpful. Like it can be helpful in determining what people's general moral instinct is, right? But once we find the general moral instinct, which is probably something like not wanting to cause like unnecessary suffering
But
and
there
wanting
is
to
no
avoid
data for that.
harming,
There is no
there
data
is
for
well,
supporting what you said. Like none. There is no data supporting that morality has anything directly to do with sentience. Nothing.
we have data to suggest that morality has to do with well-being and suffering.
Mm, we have data to support what I'm saying. I think much more than we have the data for support what you are saying. And we have no data.
I'll explain.
And we wait. Let me just answer.
Data to suggest that almost every moral intuition is going to revolve pretty heavily around well-being or just experience in general, right? We don't care about breaking rocks, right? We don't care about harming
What are you
animals,
talking
right?
about? Some people care a great deal about breaking rocks. Go to Mecca and break the big black rock. You will see what
Well, my
happens.
bad. I mean, some people care a great deal about the fact that it's illegal to rape people because they really want to rape people, right? It's not really relevant when we're talking about general moral instinct, right? So when I say we, that's referring to the vast majority of people. 99.999% of people don't care that much about breaking rocks, right? And when they do care about breaking rocks, it's because they're relevant to some culture, right? When you break like some big cultural rock and that's super relevant to Mayan history or whatever, the reason people care about that isn't because it's a rock and breaking rocks is bad. The reason they care about that is because it's relevant to human culture, right? And destroying parts of human culture is bad. or something like that, right? It depends pretty heavily, I guess, because most people don't care about breaking rocks, so it's going to be pretty varied when they do. But yeah, like most people don't care about breaking rocks. Most people don't care about killing plants, right? And when they do, it's always in relation to humans or experience, right?
Yeah, same with
So
animals.
well, listen. I agree that normally or vast majority of cases, it's in relation to humans, right? But I think that's just because we have a pretty flawed we have a pretty flawed understanding of animals, right? Most people, most people don't understand that animals are like sentient. Most people view animals as
No, that's
animals.
ridiculous. Most people throughout the history lived a meter from the animal.
What?
Most people throughout history lived with animals in extreme proximity to the animal. That's ridiculous.
Okay,
They had
but
complete
listen.
understanding
That
of.
doesn't mean that they had some robust understanding of sentience. I don't think most people throughout history had a robust understanding of humans having sentience either,
Most
right?
people don't have the robust understanding of people having sentience today.
That's what I just said, word for word. I agree.
Yeah,
That
so
doesn't make
that
it.
means
That doesn't.
sentience is
Well,
irrelevant.
that's actually no. That doesn't make it irrelevant. That just means that most people, when we're talking about moral intuitions, don't know factors that are going to be pretty relevant to determining things about their morals, right?
Okay,
Like
but if they don't know the factors,
listen. If you tell somebody, and this is why it's very easy to convince people to go vegan. It's really not that difficult. Is because when you have conversations with people, most of the time when you have a conversation with somebody about how they feel about raping animals, right? Most people are going to say, well, that's pretty bad because like that's like harmful to the animal, right? And that's like you shouldn't just be like, or like if you ask like beating the shit out of animals, right? Well, that's really bad because that's like harmful to the animal and it's just unnecessary. Most people, when you ask them, what if I beat the shit out of them and then eat them? Well, they'll just say, well, no, just eat them, right? You don't have to beat the shit out of them. Or what if, and most people, if I say, what if I rape them and then eat them, right? Most people are going to say, well, you don't have to rape them. You could just eat them, right? Because they don't want to cause unnecessary suffering to the animal. And a lot of people view meat or just animal food or products in general as necessary suffering, right? That's why so many people, and there's also another type of thing that people do, which is another type of thing that people do is they don't really understand that animals kind of experience, right? So people will say stuff like, well, animals are basically akin to robots, right? Like they don't, it's not like they get like super upset or it's not like they care that much or it's not like they understand things. They're like super dumb, like they're literally like robots. So people just have a lot of like misunderstandings about stuff relating to animals, right? We agree that like eating animal food isn't necessary, right? We agree that animals are pretty intelligent, they're sentient, they have personalities, they can care for humans, they can care for other animals, humans can care for them, other animals can care for them, right? Like all of the relevant factors to determining whether it's morally wrong to cause like any harm to a human, right, are going to be there in animals. They experience, they have emotional relations to us, right? It's not necessary to kill them. We don't get any actual benefit out of killing them, right? Like just all of these factors that are going to be relevant to killing them are going to indicate that it's wrong.
no,
So I
you.
don't understand what relevant factors besides people do it are going to indicate that it's not wrong or amoral.
First of all, you predispose like a lot. You predispose that. First of all, you predispose that people don't know this. This can be your experience. I'm not uh, putting that in questions. I don't really care. But it's simply not the case that throughout human history people did not understand animals. They don't understood animals much more than a common city dweller today in the city. That's one point. Second point, it is not at all that killing animals is unnecessary. Killing animals is absolutely necessary, not for dietary reasons or health. It is simply necessary because people want to eat meat. And that is the only.
Sorry, killing animals is necessary. Why?
Because people want to eat meat.
Gotcha. So it's not necessary. Cool.
Well, it is necessary. Only thing that creates necessity is want. Nothing else can create
Well,
necessity.
yeah, we can argue that in like some reductive sense, right? Like yeah, like people want to survive, I guess.
No, like people just don't even. You don't even have to go that far. People just want to eat meat.
Right. People don't have to eat meat.
Well, they
People want
don't
to.
have to, but they want to. And if they want
What?
to, they have to, right?
Yup.
Okay,
Wait, sorry.
so.
No, I don't know. I don't know if you just said if they want to, they have to. Obviously, that's not the case.
Well,
When we're talking about necessity, generally what we're talking about there is whether it's going to be whether it's going to be. I mean, I don't know how else to say it without using the word necessary, right? It's going to be necessary for survival. Or I mean, we could just say it's going to be like a prerequisite or like a condition that has to be there for survival or for health, right? Or for some other end that's going to be considered important, right? And the fact that they want to eat
I
meat is
disagree with that
necessary.
notion.
Why?
I think that only thing that creates necessity is want. And other than
Okay, so
want,
again, I
I
agree in a
mean,
reductive sense. Okay, I don't think it's relevant.
I think it is relevant.
We could just say, yeah, people want to eat meat, right? The more important desires that people have, that we should consider more, are desires to survive and desires to be healthy, right? I
The,
agree with that.
yeah, and those are not incompatible with eating meat.
No, I agree. Those are not incompatible with
So
eating meat,
what's the
but
point?
eating meat isn't a necessary condition for survival or for health, right? I agree it's a necessary condition for eating meat. Like eating meat is going to be necessary if you want to eat meat, right? Um,
Okay, so eating meat is necessary for majority of people.
no, eating meat is necessary to eat meat. It's
And
not going to
most
be
people want to
necessary.
eat meat, and that one creates a
It's not going to be
necessity.
necessary in any like meaningful way, right? Because
Uh,
all we're saying there
look,
is
what is.
you have to eat meat to eat meat. And I agree that if you're eating meat, you are eating meat. I think you agree if you are eating meat, you are eating meat, right? Like this isn't relevant at all, right?
No, I agree. I
What
don't agree that it is irrelevant.
what would be easier to say
I
is that
think.
it fulfills the desire. Eating meat fulfills the desire of people who want to eat meat, right?
Uh,
But yeah, I just don't consider that desire all that important when that desire
yeah,
is
and the problem is. Uh, like, nobody died and make you decide what is relevant or not. Right? People decide what is relevant for themselves. Right? They decide what is the relevant and what isn't relevant.
I agree. I think those people are just misplaced. I think those people are just ignorant about
Yeah, but those people are only data points that we have. So if we have, so what data points do you have?
I agree, but I don't understand why we can't do any further analysis or why you can't do any further analysis about these people's intuitions, right? Because I agree, if we look at it on face value, right? Yeah, a lot of people want to eat meat. That's not relevant to whether eating meat is going to be something that we should care about, right?
Okay, now when
I don't know why we're getting the moral intuitions out of people specifically, right? It seems pretty people centric, but even if we do that, right? The thing that we should probably look at here is what are people's fundamental intuitions? Eating meat isn't a fundamental intuition, right? It's not a fundamental intuition that
that is debatable.
it's not debatable. It's not some sort of
There's a
intuition about
Moscow.
all behavior. It's just not.
Well, not all behavior. Very few intuitions about all behavior.
I agree. There are very few fundamental intuitions, which is why it's not actually all that difficult.
Okay, so what? I'm just
It's
curious.
not actually all that difficult to look at fundamental intuitions that people have that are going to guide all behavior, right?
Okay, I'm just curious. What do you think that are basic intuitions? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so a thing that's like a basic intuition might be like logic. People have basic intuitions about logic. Another one might be like truth, right? People have basic intuitions about truth. Another one
I
might
mean,
be
those are linked. Okay.
well-being or experience, right? People have basic intuitions about experience. All of these basic intuitions are going to guide every single action that people take.
Yeah, I mean, when you say guide every single action, they would guide actions, but they wouldn't produce any impulse for any actions.
They wouldn't what?
They wouldn't produce any impulse for any action. If we just only have those what you have, we would just sit here and die.
If you have an intuition that logic exists, right? You're going to be able to utilize logic. If you don't have an intuition,
Yeah, but to utilize logic, you need some incentive, right? I mean, you have logic. Look, let me explain. So,
the incentive is that it's necessary for you to function because that's just how humans are made, right? Or how most humans are made, right? So you can't just not utilize logic.
I mean, yeah, of course, I'm completely agreeing with you. But what I'm saying is, uh, let's say you are thirsty, you go up, you get a glass of water. Logic can get you to the water, but logic doesn't tell you that you are thirsty.
Yeah, because logic is more fundamental than that. Logic guides every single action and behavior.
But yeah, it guides every single action and behavior.
You never get to the water. You never even get the impulse to get up and get water if you don't have the logic. The logic gives you the impulse to do everything.
No, logic doesn't give you the impulse to do anything.
Okay, let me ask you then: if somebody who's thirsty cannot logically deduce that water is going to help their thirst, right? If they are they gonna have the impulse to get up and get water?
Uh, they wouldn't get the impulse to get water, but if a person doesn't have the impulse, wait, but if person does get the impulse to have drink water, to be thirsty, then it also wouldn't get up and drink water, right?
I agree completely.
Okay, so logic doesn't.
Logic is a necessary precondition. Not only logic, but intuitions about like experience as well, right? Are going to be necessary preconditions towards any impulse towards any action or any action that you're going to take. There are other conditions that are there. Logic doesn't get you there on its own, and obviously I'm not claiming that. Of course I'm not, right? There are fundamental or necessary intuitions that are guiding all actions or behavior, right? And we can look at these fundamental or necessary intuitions, right? And we can examine these, right? Or even intuitions that are more all-encompassing, right? So if I have an intuition generally about experience, right, that I generally value sentient things, that's going to be more all-encompassing in terms of action than eating meat is or wanting to eat.
I don't think that you have the intuition to generally value all sentient things.
Okay.
I think, well, I don't see, I mean, I don't know you that well, but I don't see it in the people generally. So it's possible that you may have it, but I don't see that anybody else on mass have it.
Okay. I see it in probably everyone. Probably a vast majority of people.
How do you see it? How do you recognize it?
Huh?
How do you recognize it?
Yeah. So just asking simple questions about like suffering or experience, asking simple questions about like counterfactuals, right? Like, do you think we value like I don't know, Kryptonians, right? Do you think we value like things that look and act completely different from us, but we know they experience, right? You can see it in like general media, right? When people see a movie like what was that one movie that started with an A? It was like some alien movie where there was this like sentient species or whatever. There were a lot of people talking about it, and basically everyone concluded, you know, stuff like, yeah, like it's probably not okay for the government to just like nuke the species or whatever, even though they're peaceful, like stuff like that, right? Like we could just look at like there's like a ton of general stuff that we can look at. I think media is really helpful, but I think what's even more helpful when we want to get specific is asking people questions, right? Are you okay with raping animals? No. Are you okay with beating animals? No. Would you be okay with beating a blob that can feel? If that blob can think and feel and be sad if you beat
But
it,
how do you?
beating it? No, right? Like most people
Okay.
answer no to any sort of harm being caused, or most people say it's wrong for any sort of harm to be caused for sentient things. Most people think it's
Yeah,
right
preach
for increase in well-being or happiness to be caused like towards like sentient things. It's just like a pretty common intuition.
Um, I would. I know what you are alluding to. I think that most of those questions, not you exactly. I don't know how you ask the questions. I know how people tend to ask those questions. They're usually a bit loaded, but I would like to say that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I would like to say that even if you do ask these questions, there is no way for you to control for cultural relativism. There is no way for you to do it.
There's no
So,
way for you to control for what?
for the influence of the culture in those that you could question,
It's not relevant.
I think that it is extremely relevant because
Wouldn't we think the influence of the culture would be towards being okay with causing harm to sentient things, since that's like what we do every day?
I don't think that has anything to do with century culture, but today's culture is very much against violent action and against violence in general.
True.
Yeah, and that is today's culture. I think that there are some evidence. Wait, let me finish. I think that there are some evidence for universal aversion to violence, and that is even present in basically all others, not all other species, but many other species have aversion to violence. And I agree with that Kapotnik that there is evidence for law of mutual aid, but I don't think that either one of those create any sort of meaningful system.
But they don't have to create any meaningful system. We have to derive a system based on that evidence, right? So if generally we
No, we don't have to derive a system. If we derive a system rather than just describing a system, we are constructing or I don't think
So when
something that doesn't actually
we
exist.
can't describe a system. We can't describe a system without deriving any sort of extra information, right? So we don't get a moral system from most people think this. Describing that system would just be saying most people think this. Saying most people think this isn't a moral system. We have to derive shoulds from that.
No, I don't think that moral system gives shoulds. I think moral system just
So it's a moral system, just a description of what most people like, what most people don't like, what most people do,
and it is a prediction how most people will act.
how most it's supposed to be descriptive of how most people will act.
Yeah, it is descriptive. I don't think that there is any possible way.
Well, sorry, if a moral system, so a moral system is just going to be changing every minute, right? Or every second, or every millisecond, or like we never
Uh,
set moral system that's ever going to be descriptive of how people. Actually, the real answer is that there is one set moral system that's descriptive of how people will act, and that set moral system is the descriptions of all, the set of descriptions of how all people will act, right? So the set of all actions is going to be the moral system, right? And then I don't understand. It's not going to be amoral to say that. Or it's not going to be amoral to murder animals, right? Because moral is going to be people have a tendency towards this, right? Immoral is going to be people have a tendency against this. So you're actually saying it's moral.
I think it is more. That is a bit too generalistic. I think that moral system and when like the proper use or everyday use of the word moral is understood, that it does not preclude to all action, but to certain actions, and those three actions that I
Right? So what we're saying
not act in every like every situation, every action, but particular actions that they have the likelihood of acting.
Wait, sorry. So it's I don't understand them. A moral system is a description of particular actions that people will do in the future. Which actions? And how
Well,
are they determined?
those three actions that I said: killing, stealing, and assaulting.
Oh, gotcha. So a moral system is a description of how people will act in regards to killing, stealing, and assaulting in the future.
Yes.
Gotcha. And how do we determine whether something's moral? What does that mean in this descriptive system?
The things that are moral are the things that strengthen the system, and things that are immoral, amoral, are things that don't have anything to do with the system, and the immoral things are the things that break the system or cause the system to react.
So let's be more specific here, because I think we have a solution here. So it's going to be the moral actions or the decision included in the moral actions.
Just like, can you have can you wait just for a second? Sorry, don't close your Twitter. Just a millisecond. Okay, sorry, I'm back.
Gotcha. So the moral system is going to be the set of all actions, the set of all future actions.
Not the set of all future actions.
It's the set of all future actions related to or in regards to killing, stealing, or assaulting.
No,
So, okay, well that's what you said.
no, I said it helps us predict actions.
Sorry, a moral system is meant to predict actions.
No, it's not meant to predict actions. It is help you of well, there is let's say it can help to predict. There is a certain percentage that you can be certain that people will act in a certain way. It doesn't. It is basically a bit of a gamble, but you can be more sure than not.
What you told me was that a moral system was the set of actions that people will do, and then it was the set of actions that people will do in regards to assaulting, killing, or stealing, but now it's what?
Then I failed to communicate.
I mean,
I think that look, X number of people will act in a way that they won't kill, assault, and steal even when presented the opportunity to, and X number of people will will go out of their way to punish those who killed, stolen, and assaulted. And that is what moral system is. And
A moral system is what? The number of people that will kill, steal,
no, the
and
system is uh, uh, basically the system is the because those people exist, they create a system. They create a pattern of behavior that you can predict and rely upon.
oh, so what is the system? The system is the pattern.
Yeah, the system is the pattern and the components
Okay,
who
if
carry
if
out that
there's
pattern.
actions in the future, if there's a pattern in the future of people behaving in a way which is killing something, is that pattern going to be, is that killing something going to be included in the moral system there?
Of course, I mean the system needs or the interpretation of the system needs to adopt to the reality of the ground, right?
I don't know if you understood my question, so I'm gonna ask it again. Um, if the if there's a tendency for people to kill things in the future, right? Like let's imagine, a majority of people are murdering things in the future, right? Is this tendency to murder or this pattern of behavior, which is murdering, going to be included in the moral system?
Uh, I have to agree. I would have to recognize that those actions of killing are not triggering the moral system.
Okay, so to be clear, a moral system is the patterns of behavior which are descriptive of future actions. But if it's a pattern of behavior which is descriptive of a future action,
Not just pattern, but also like the actors are also the part of the system, right?
wait, say it again.
Not just the pattern, but also the actors are part of the system. The patterns and the actors, right? But
So a
okay,
moral
sorry.
system is what?
It's the pattern of behavior and the actors of that behavior.
Okay, I don't know what that means, but we can go with that because that still works. So if a moral system is the pattern of behavior and the actors in that system, right? If there is a pattern of behavior in the future of people murdering people, right? This is a tendency that a majority of people have, right? Is murdering people, and those people are in the moral system. Is murdering people as a pattern of behavior, and the actors that are doing it a part of the moral system.
At that point, the murder would be dropped from the moral system, and it would not be. It would be amoral to murder, or
It would be immoral to murder if a
amoral to
majority of
murder.
people. It would be amoral to murder if a majority of people murdered people.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Even though that's a pattern of behavior,
Well,
it
no,
would be
you
included in
said
the
it
moral
would.
system.
So if they started killing people and they would do it for a significant time to collect the data, for that data to be relevant, then the pattern of behavior would have changed and the system would have changed. The system is not there is
So if the pattern of behavior is murdering people, then the system includes murdering people, right?
yeah, the system permits murdering people. Yeah,
Okay, cool. So if we have a pattern of, and if we say it's included in the moral system, it's not amoral, right? So if there's a pattern of behavior for people murdering people, this is what a majority of people tend to do, right? That's included in the moral system, and therefore that thing, that action, murdering people, is not amoral, right?
mm, no, morality only look again. Uh, that would be amoral because the system of morality.
Included in the moral system.
No, no, no. It
Amoral.
would look. I think we had a misunderstanding. I'm not. I'm saying that if people started killing each other, that thing would no longer be considered into this pattern of behavior. I mean, in this pattern of punishment and restraint. That is the pattern, right? The
That's the
pattern
same
of
thing. Okay.
punishment and restraint.
You told me, we'll get to the fifth definition now, because the fourth definition that you gave was a moral system is a moral system includes the pattern of behavior that people will have, and
Yeah, that pattern of behavior uh, relates to punishment and restraint. That is that not all behaviors, of course.
gotcha. Okay. So if a majority of people are not punishing, there's a pattern of behavior of not punishing murder, right?
Yeah.
Is murder or is it not?
It would be amoral to murder if most people are
Okay, so
doing it.
there's a pattern of behavior of punishing murder, right?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be is murder gonna be amoral or moral or immoral?
Murder would be immoral.
Gotcha. So when we're determining whether something is immoral, all immoral means is it gets punished. All
When
it
it
means
gets
is there's a
punished
pattern of
and
behavior.
wait,
There's
wait,
a
it
pattern of
let me
behavior to punish people for doing X. That's what immoral means, right?
it is it is punishment and it is also restraint. So it is restraint from doing it and punishing those who do it.
Gotcha. So there are so many factors here that are just not relevant.
I
So
mean,
okay. So restraint from doing it and punishing people for doing it. Do we have to weigh these? What if people have restraint from doing it, but they also don't punish people doing it? Is that thing immoral?
in that the system would collapse. It has
The
to have
system would
both.
collapse if people were restrain themselves from doing something but didn't punish people from doing that.
As described, it would collapse. Yeah, it wouldn't be the
Okay.
same.
Okay. So if the system would collapse that way, can we just assume that the system, whenever it's working, that if somebody is punishing somebody for something, right, that thing is always going to be immoral. It's
Not
either
always.
if it's being punished for, it's immoral, or the system collapses, right?
If something is being punished for,
Then it's immoral, or the system collapses.
then yeah, basically.
Okay, so we could just say that the moral system here is
For
if something is being punished for, it's immoral. If it's not being punished for, it's moral. Or the system collapses.
yeah, and I need to prefix that it has to be on like differential cultural. It has to be a significant number of data points which are culturally accounted for, and for the significant amount of time, of course.
Gotcha. So how do we? So are we just looking for pattern of or tendency of behavior here? Is that it? Like
Yeah,
the majority of people throughout history are punishing somebody for something, then that thing is wrong, or the system collapses.
yeah. I don't see how we can do it any other way.
Okay. Well, that just doesn't sound. It doesn't. I have no idea why we would assume that that resembles morals, because that's not what anybody on Earth ever meant by morals or ever means.
I disagree. I think that is the only. I think that.
It's fine if we want to say that something being punished makes it wrong, right? Like I agree. Like promiscuity. I don't know. Being promiscuous, right? That's probably immoral, right?
Not really. There is not that
Promiscuity
much
is probably
data.
immoral, right? I don't know. Being like black and not a slave might be immoral. I don't know. That one's up in the air, I guess.
Most slaves were not black throughout history.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to be more specific, right? Like, it's gonna be like being in a culture which is majority not yours, right? And being on equal footing with the rest of the people in that culture, like that's probably immoral,
I
right?
mean, morality. For something to be morality, or how I understand it, it has to come from evolutionary traits, and for something to be true morality, because then so it has to, but it does, and in that way it is culturally. It's not culturally relative, because I mean that's how the data is found. Not
I don't know. I don't even know if it's worth debating at this point. We've had 5 different definitions for what a moral system is.
no. I mean it is the same definition. It's just
No,
that
it's not. It's not.
you have
I can name at least a few other ones. One of them that you told me was that a moral system is just a tendency for behavior at all, right?
not at all.
And then when that seemed to have an issue, you specified that it's a tendency for behavior for punishment, and then when that seemed to have an issue, it was a tendency for behavior for punishment and restraint, right? And even before that, we had sort of different understandings of what a moral system was, and we were saying that a moral system was just a description of actions, right? But we don't agree with that anymore. That now it's just a description of patterns of actions, right? So I don't know. Like it seems like this is so nebulous and up in the air that I mean we've gotten to a point where we have like maybe a concrete definition of morals, right? Which is have a majority of people punished people for doing X in the past, right? And if they have, it's immoral. If they haven't, it's moral, right? Or amoral, I guess. I don't know what moral would be in this scenario. Or the system
Well, the
itself
moral
would
would be
be
the
broken.
punish. The moral action would be the punishment, right? But okay, it's not really that important. But
Um,
what I don't look. This definition is pretty. I mean, this is recorded, so we can go back and watch it. But I will publish it. But I have this definition pretty nailed down for like a long time now, and if you go back and
well,
watch my other debates, you will see that it is
I'm like really
consistent. I
surprised
just,
that was the
I just,
definition.
you just,
So
it
I'm not
even,
trying to meta conversation much, but the problem is, one, this doesn't resemble what anybody's talking about when they talk about morals, right? So I agree that if somebody gives me a consistent, coherent set of moral system, which is going to be all things which are moral are going to be all things which are in the set blue, right? Like all things which are blue are going to be moral, right? So a moral property is just going to be the property of being blue, and all things which are immoral are, the set of all things which are red, right? Like, yeah, that's a consistent moral system. I agree, right? But it's just not even remotely descriptive of what people are talking about when we're talking about morals, right? So I don't agree that the fact that if something has been punished for in a majority of cases is going to make that moral, right? Unless we're talking about punished for in a majority of cases in the set of all time, right? And then we have to make predictions on whether there's going to be punishment for this kind of stuff in the future. And I mean, obviously there will be, right? The vegan movement is growing. We don't have any reason to believe that it's going to like slow down.
mm,
Yeah, so
vegan
I
movement
agree
is
that,
pretty new
but it's
thing.
it's just not even relevant. Like most people just aren't going to talk about morals this way. I'm not going to talk about morals this way. Like I agree that maybe I agree with you that descriptively most people in society have not punished people for eating meat, right? But that's not going to be relevant to me determining whether that thing is
Yeah,
moral, right?
but okay, so I will like ask what I asked Sabi, but what is other than this, or what is the other relevance of any other moral system that there can be talked about? What is the relevance of it?
The relevance of other moral systems are that generally moral systems are just trying to be descriptive of behavior in general, right? So not behavior in terms of punishment, behavior in terms of restraint, but behavior, all behavior, right? Moral systems are meant to be like kind of all encompassing, like
Yeah,
all
but
behavior,
then
all
that
moral.
is where they fail because behavior, all people, and well, when you say all behavior, that also needs to include all people, and don't not all, well, actually very few people act the same way in the same situations.
Yeah, I don't know why that's relevant.
Yeah, but that means that any system put forward like that would just fall apart,
No,
and it would
no.
be.
The systems that are meant to be encompassing of behavior are going to be in accordance to other things, right? So they're going to be systems about preference of behavior, right? They're going to be systems about which behavior is going to be the best.
What do
So
you
they're
mean
really
the
going to be.
best?
Look, I don't know. I don't really know what that means. But I mean, there are like 60% of PhD philosophers agree that there is some sort of moral truth about what's best,
I
right?
think
There's got to be
50% of
like one, right?
philosophers.
There's gonna be behavior in terms of emotions, right? Anti-realism is a lot easier to describe because it's pretty like mind dependent. It
I
just goes
mean,
on and on.
yeah, but all of
But
those.
all of these systems aren't going to collapse, right? Like, well, I'm sure we agree that people have preferences about behavior. I'm sure we agree that people have emotions about behavior, right? I'm sure that we agree that people descriptively behave in certain ways. I'm sure that we agree that if religion exists, there are going to be like best actions or actions which are most conducive towards some sort of like teleological end, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Like there are tons of moral systems that are going to be relevant to different things. But what the main all-encompassing factor there is they're relevant to behavior, and I agree that yours is relevant to behavior. I just don't think it's what I'm pretty very reasonably certain that it's not what most people are talking about when they're talking about morals, right?
Yeah, I mean, most. Let's just say that most of those people who got PhD in philosophy can just wipe their ass with that, because I think that philosophy has no room anymore in predicting human behavior. Human behavior is predicted by science today. It is not.
Yeah,
It is not.
I
It shouldn't be.
totally agree with that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be studied with philosophy, and that just means that all of those philosophers are just wasting their and everybody else's time. So only
Well,
thing that we can do.
there's like more specific things about human behavior that you can't really study with science. So like, there's a lot science, right? They're going to be like metaphysical patterns about human behavior that you can't really study with
Yeah,
science.
but
But science can inform it. Science is kind of necessary to inform a lot of it. Like, you know, the psychology of metaethics is like a really good and important field in metaethics. But I mean, that doesn't, like, it's just not going to
I mean, only thing that
investigating it.
philosophy has to offer is vocabulary, nothing more. Yeah,
That's not true. There are concepts about behavior that it has to offer. Vocabulary is just kind of like
like what?
yeah, like emotion, right? Emotion is going to be a pretty good concept. Having emotion in accordance to action, right? The linguistic relation between emotions and action, right? I wouldn't call that vocabulary because linguistic relation is actually like a thing that exists. Like words have meanings, right? Linguistic
Yeah,
relation
linguists
could be
do with meanings of words, not philosophers.
well, yeah, linguistic relations between words and their reference are like pretty crucial. Like we kind of have to do that because
Yeah,
linguistics
and that's for linguists to do.
yeah, that's actually a pretty big part of what philosophy is linguistic relations.
Yeah, so they should probably get diplomas in linguistics.
Gotcha. I don't know if you're trolling right now or
No, no,
you understand that
appalling hatred for philosophy.
you understand that linguistics is like a part of philosophy, right?
Well, every science is basically a part of philosophy, but okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's actually the point. True. Ironic. So, but yeah, I mean, realistically, like, I don't care about whether it's like pragmatic or not.
yeah, but what I'm
But again,
saying is,
like the point being is that if we're just gonna say like a majority of people in society don't punish people for eating meat, like I agree with that, and I don't know. You should have just came out the bat with that and said, "Hey, do you agree that a majority of people don't in society don't punish people for eating meat?" And I would have said yes.
okay,
I would have
and
said
okay, okay.
I don't think
Uh,
that's relevant to whether I prefer whether people eat meat. I don't think that's relevant to whether people in general prefer people to eat meat. I don't think that's relevant in terms of what's most conducive to well-being or suffering, which I think is probably what morality is most related to. That would have been a lot easier. So
yeah, but
uh,
also most people in society don't have any, which is to them relative, negative experiences, emotions, whatever you want to call it, from killing animals and having or eating meat.
yeah, well, not killing animals when they're eating meat, but killing animals in general. A lot of people do have really negative emotions. I don't know if it's most people, but my guess would be that it is. If you murder an animal in front of somebody, generally people are not happy. Like if I take a cat and I slit its throat in front of somebody, generally people are not happy. If I take a pig and do that, a cow and do that, it's pretty much
You
the
know
same
that
thing.
that is very circumstantially, mostly culturally, and very much geographically
It's
influenced.
cultural, but it's pretty true across most cultures. Like
No, I mean most cultures celebrate the killing of
violent
livestock.
cultures and people who work in slaughterhouses in general across most cultures have like higher rates of like domestic violence, higher rates of assault, higher rates of homicide.
There is no data to prove the causation of that. There is only
Okay, well, I
correlation.
don't have a study. I don't have a study on hand, but I can send you a study on
I
hand.
mean, I probably know that the study that you would send. I mean, it's not like I didn't look into this. There was, to my knowledge, only one study that looked into. Actually, there were two studies. One study just concluded that people in slaughterhouse have a lower opinion of animals than people on average. That is not surprising. And the other thing is that was one study carried out in one slaughterhouse in South Africa, and I actually looked at the whole study, which is 37 pages, not just the abstraction that is available online. Um, and uh, uh, people, it was basically interview with slaughterhouse workers of 30, 40, 30 something workers, don't hold me on the exact number, worked in this or were interviewed in that slaughterhouse. Of those, I think 11 worked in the killing floor, and of those 11, only two said that they had negative experience after killing animals, and that was on their first day, and they had nightmares their first day.
Yeah, this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an observational study that observes the crime rates correlative to slaughterhouse workers and non-slaughterhouse workers.
Yeah, but that just means that people who work in slaughterhouse have tendency. But also, if you look, people who work in slaughterhouses are people who are more likely to be lower educated, have prior history of crime.
I actually agree with all of that, which is why they're more likely to work in slaughterhouses, which is relevant to the point.
Yeah, because
These people who are
slaughterhouse is
less
not.
educated, these people who are less educated, who are more involved with crime, who just live in a culture that's more conducive to not caring about like people or animals, are more likely to work in places that are going to murder animals and be okay with murdering animals, right?
I mean, slaughterhouse.
That's going to be the case.
Not just that, but slaughterhouse is generally undesirable place to work, not just to. When, well, no, we can say that it is in part due to basically the cultural view of the animal in today's culture, but it is also objectively very dangerous place to work, and the working conditions are objectively very hard, regardless of the nature of the work.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's relevant, but it's not that relevant.
I think it is very relevant.
I'm not sure.
Also, you also need to look that most slaughterhouses are not well positioned to commute, which also makes it less likely that they will be a desirable place to work. You also need to look at like there is a lot. Working conditions in slaughterhouses are very poor, and the perception of those people are poor. But that does not correlate to the killing of animals, because killing of animals on not such not in different conditions don't carry the same.
The point being is that the general population generally just isn't okay with murdering animals when it's not in regards to meat. It seems like meat gives people sort of like cognitive dissonance around killing animals and makes them like unable to rationally think much about the fact that they're killing animals, right? Most people don't think about the animal dying. Most people don't think about animals at all when they're eating meat.
Is there a reason for them to think about animals?
It's so normalized that even saying the word chicken to people generally doesn't invoke the image of a chicken. It invokes like the image of like the dead corpse that doesn't even resemble the chicken.
Yeah, and what's the problem with that?
Well, the problem with that is it makes it really hard for people to reason around whether they're okay with killing animals, because the thing that they're okay with is the food, right? They really like the food, they're okay with the food, and that causes people to have like motivated reasoning in regards to killing animals, right? In the same way that if I ask somebody who really likes raping people to ethically to conceptually analyze raping people in an ethical lens, right? Generally, I think that person's probably going to be more biased towards raping people ethically, right? But it's probably going to be more biased in the position that it's ethical to rape people because they have a lot of cognitive dissonance around it, because they rape people.
Yeah, and that is why I don't question individuals. I just look at aggregated data.
Oh, that's why it's easier. That's actually why it's easier to question individuals in more specific ways that are.
But it is less revealing.
Sort of biases, right? So if you question somebody about killing animals when it doesn't have the bias of meat, right? When you say, "Hey, what if I just kill an animal for fun? Is that okay? Like, what if I'm just like killing an animal for fun?" Almost everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, that's not okay. That's like really fucked up, right?" If I just say, "Well, what if I'm just like raping an animal for fun?" Well, that's really fucked up. What if I'm just like impregnating an animal for fun? Well, that's really fucked up. Like, et cetera, right? Like most people, when you take it away from meat and you remove the cognitive bias of meat, most people are not okay with it, right? But again, I don't even know if it's going to be like wholly relevant whether most people are okay with it, because even when they're not, even when they are, we can analyze more fundamental intuitions, like intuitions about well-being, right? And just say that yeah, most people are okay with it because they're dumb and they don't understand the implications of what's happening.
I don't think that we can say it like that. And I don't think that you can say, when you say most people do it, killing. Look, before, animals were valuable and very limited and very hard to secure and produce a vital resource. And today, animals are basically culturally significant. There is a cultural significance of animals. And it is very hard to control for those. It is very hard to think, to say, and I would argue that it is basically impossible for you, when you ask Bob, Bob, is it okay to fuck an animal? It is almost impossible for Bob, of course, if he has any, to have any, to know Bob's true, let's say, intentions which are not culturally influenced. And if they are culturally influenced, then it is again just a cultural thing. So again, that data is very
I agree it's
useless.
fine. I agree it's fine if it's culturally influenced, right? But it's also the culture also affects the inverse, right? Like it's culturally the case that people are generally not okay with murdering animals when it's not in regards to meat, right? Even most people who murder animals agree with that. Almost a majority of people who hunt, who actually hunt, agree that it's bad for people to hunt for fun, and that if you're hunting for sport and not using it, that it's like a waste, and that's wrong, right? And I agree that some
Yeah,
people
and the
also think
problem
that
is the
it
problem is
relates to a similar reason, which is you're killing something and you're not even using the product, right? So the killing the thing is going to be bad in that scenario because the thing that justifies it is using the product, right? Is eating the meat. And then obviously we could just take a conceptual lens of that and see whether it actually justifies it or whether that's just a societal bias people have. And it tends to be a societal bias that people have.
I mean, if it is just a societal bias, society has no problem with it. You just like
But
basically
the thing
prove my
is,
point. But
society does have a problem with killing animals. Okay, it's not going to be that killing animals is amoral, right? It's going to be that killing animals seems like it is pretty bad. Even societally, if we want to take a societal aggregate, seems like killing animals is pretty bad in a lot of
no,
contexts. It seems like killing animals is pretty bad in a lot of contexts, and it's not bad in the context where people are people when people are doing it for meat, right? Even if we just want to look at like societal aggregate.
no, but killing animals today in today's society for any other reason other than meat consumption, basically, or some other things like testing, blah blah. We can ignore that for now. Is basically actually no. Let's not ignore it. Only thing that today there is a set of a proper way of the use of resources, and animals are just viewed as resource. So when they say it is not okay to go and kill for fun, it is just it is viewed that it is a waste of resources of that animal.
That's not what most people are talking about when they're talking about why it's bad to kill animals. I agree that's what hunters are talking about
Okay,
generally, right? But listen, that's
so
what I
we
said.
solve part of it.
The reasons why hunters are going to say something like that is going to be different than the reason why most people are going to say something like that. Most people are going to say, well, it's like kind of bad to kill an animal. You know, it's okay if we're using them for meat, but it's kind of
Yeah,
bad to kill them because
and
they're literally
do you
being
think
cruel.
that the most other people will do it just because they saw Bambi's mom being killed on the TV when they were kids?
What?
Do they think? Do you think that it would that other people would have problem with with hunting for fun because they saw Bambi moms being killed on TV?
Yeah, maybe not that specifically, but that sort of thing. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
people
and
would.
that is all cultural indoctrination, right?
It's not cultural indoctrination. If it was
Yes,
cultural indoctrination, people would be a-okay with killing animals. I don't understand. Also,
but
you agree
people
that it
are
doesn't
okay
matter
with
whether it's
killing
cultural
animals.
indoctrination. Hold on, you agree that it doesn't matter whether it's cultural indoctrination because we're taking into account cultural effects, right? So even if it is cultural indoctrination, it doesn't matter.
It matters for your understanding of it.
It doesn't.
It does because when
I
you
said
interview,
even if we take into account cultural effects, right?
no,
Even
but
if
only
we
I
take into
take
account, hold on,
into.
I am, hold on. You're not understanding me then. I'm saying even if we take into account cultural effects, it seems like most people think it's immoral to kill animals in some
But
contexts.
how do you take into? How do you personally take into account cultural
Just
influence?
asking people if they're okay with it and then not analyzing the relevant cultural biases. We don't even have to analyze the relevant cultural biases. We can just ask somebody, "Are you okay with doing this?" Right? We don't have to remove like factors that are going to be really culturally biased. Just are you okay with doing this? Right? Are you okay with killing an animal? If I just slit the throat of a dog in front of you, right? Are you okay with this? Right? Most people say no. Most people, if you say, "Well, are you okay with doing it for meat?" I mean, most people will also say no for like a dog or a cat because they're domesticated, right? Or most people in Western society. But most people, when you talk about like chickens or pigs, will say yes. So obviously people agree generally that it's gonna be like immoral in some contexts, or like bad in some
Mm,
contexts, or non-preferential in some contexts.
yeah, but that is due to the cultural relativism, nothing more.
It doesn't matter.
It is
You
just
agree. We're in agreement. So you agree that in some contexts, people are gonna agree that's bad. So it's not gonna be amoral in those contexts.
no. Well, in my understanding, it would be amoral because I control for the cultural biases, but you don't. Mhm.
You don't control for the cultural biases.
I
You
do.
say,
I
okay,
aggregate the data from all
the
the
only thing,
cultures.
listen, the only thing you say, okay, it's going to be immoral if a majority of people punish for this thing, right?
Yeah, but because I take
Okay. And a majority of people do punish for that thing.
for
You're not
voting.
allowed to just kill your pet. You have to have it government authorized, or you have to euthanize them.
No,
And most
again.
places don't allow you to hunt for sport. It's not allowed to hunt for sport in a vast majority of places, right? There are contexts in which killing animals is punished for in a majority of cases.
First of all, in most places you can hunt for sport. Uh,
Absolutely not
uh,
true. Oh my god, that's so untrue. Hunting is one of the most restricted activities on earth.
yeah,
It is
and
so difficult to find places that you can hunt for sport. And even places that you can hunt for sport, you can only do it for a few months at a time, right? Because they have to control for population. It's required
yeah,
by law. And so
due to the
you
resource.
can't just go out and murder things for sport wherever you want. That's not how that works.
Yeah, due to the resource guarding. Yeah, to the resource guarding, not for any other reason.
But you can't do that. In most contexts, you are punished. In most places, you're punished for doing it. In most times of the year, you're punished for doing it, even in the places that allow it.
Yes, because
Okay.
the
So in
government
most
or
contexts,
wait,
hunting for sport is not allowed and is
it
punishable.
is allowed in almost every culture.
Therefore, based
It,
on the moral system, it's going to be immoral, or the moral system that we're using here is going to collapse according to that.
wait, first of all, I said that I use aggregated data, so it goes throughout history, not with now. Right now, I cannot control for if I ignore all the other cultures that existed and exist now and just use four of us that are here, then I cannot get any reliable state of data.
Right, but if we want to aggregate data throughout history, we have the same problem, right? Throughout history, I think pre-written history is like a vast minority of human history. Throughout the vast majority of human history, we have we have no idea what was happening throughout a vast majority of human history, and the things that we do know were happening were pretty bad, right? People were raping and murdering each other like super often.
We don't have evidence that people murder and kill each other very often before in pre-recorded history.
Wait, sorry, we don't have evidence for humans murdering each other?
Not on mass and before recorded history.
Okay, well, I don't have evidence on hand, so
Uh, the the earliest sites of battles are basically in very late on mass, of course. It is possible.
Humans were like extremely tribal. Like we're one of like the most tribal fucking species on the planet. Before like written history, especially like as far as I know, like the predictions that people make generally are that are even based on evidence that we've seen, are humans are extremely tribal. Even in written history, for cultures that don't have like widespread communication because of stuff like writing and language, they're also extremely tribal, right? And that's what a vast majority of human history is, right? But that doesn't seem relevant to me. I don't even know why we would take that into account, right? It seems like the things that we want to take into account are rational thought, right? And it seems like now we're at the highest level of rational thought that we have been in the past, I don't know, like ever. Maybe not this year specifically, but the past like I don't know. I want to say like 200 years, right? We've probably been at the highest level of rational thought than we have been throughout the entirety of human history, right? So it feels like we want to weight that more importantly than fucking barbaric humans, 10,000 years ago, or like 30,000 years ago, or 50,000 years ago, or whatever, that were super tribal, didn't communicate to each other using language, had no concept of what we want to call like morals or punishment or anything, right? Like none of that is going to be relevant to what we're talking about now.
I First of all, I disagree. I don't think that we are any more. I think we are more knowledgeable, but I don't think that we are more rational than people before. I mean, in the last, let's say, 50,000 years. Uh, and there is.
Human, wait, Do you
they,
think that humans now, the aggregate of humans now, are about just as intelligent as the aggregate of humans like 50,000 years ago? Do you
I
think that?
don't. From my research, I think that it is pretty much a consensus that there is no significant increase in intelligence in that time.
Okay, well, that just sounds like deranged to me. I've never heard this in my
Do
life.
you have any
That
data to provide that?
it's developed pretty significantly.
Do you have data to provide it?
Nope.
Okay, then. Then
I mean, again,
it's a
I'll say
mute
it like
point
this,
then.
right? Even if we concede that, and again, I mean, it's insane. It's insane to me because it's like,
Why? Why is it insane?
even if we do concede that, even that, which is just obviously, or to me at least, obviously not true. But even if we do concede that, the fact that we're more knowledgeable, even right, dude, not only are we more intelligent, definitely true. But we're also 100% more knowledgeable, right? We have more knowledge. We're better able to communicate with each other, right? That seems like super relevant to determining what kind of like punishments are going to be good, right? Or what kind of things that humans generally tend to punish, right? It's really hard to tell what kinds of things humans generally tend to punish when there isn't widespread communication about what people's like preferences are, right? Or what people want, or what kinds of things people care about, right? When there isn't language to convey any sort of any sorts of concepts that are
Yeah, and
communicated.
that's why. Well, that's one of the reasons why I can only account for three things.
Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe that's just an inability, like a skill issue on your part, right?
Well,
Like
I
maybe
mean,
you're
it's a
not
skill issue on
like
my part. It's not that
it's
I.
pretty easy. It's pretty easy to account for some sort of like states of well-being and suffering that we care about, right? It seems pretty obvious to me that generally we
I
want
mean,
people to
you
be
can account for it.
generally we don't want people to be to suffer, right? And seems to be the case for most people. Generally, they want people to be happy. Generally, they don't want people to suffer, and that's kind of what guides most action, right?
Not most
So yeah, I
action,
mean,
some action.
I don't know. Like we can talk in terms of like punishment, right? I don't know. I just don't know what to tell you, right? Like most people now do punish for animals being killed in certain contexts, right? If we want to look at the aggregate of human history, we can look at that, right? But even if we want to look at now, and we want to talk about the aggregate of human history and human future, right? Do you have any reason to believe that the restrictions on hunting are going to become more or way less strict? Like, do you have any reason to believe that? Because as far as I understand, the restrictions on hunting are becoming more and more strict, right? And they're
Uh,
going to become more strict as more industrial land is taken up, and as the population of
yeah, that is certainly the case.
big game that's available goes down. I have reason to believe that restrictions on hunting are going to be like more and more strict throughout the future, right?
Yeah,
Especially in
I
certain
certainly agree with that. But I still think that hunting will be available, not maybe to all.
Sorry, you think hunting isn't going to become like more restricted? You think like a
No,
majority of the time,
I definitely think that,
sport hunting isn't going to be punished for in the future?
I definitely think that hunting will be more regulated, and definitely think.
Not more regulated. You think it'll be less regulated? There will be less restrictions on it, and that a majority of it won't be
No, no, it will
punished?
be more, but it will still be available to people.
Gotcha. So if a majority of sport hunting is going to be punished in the future, right? Because a majority of sport hunting is already punished now, right?
No, I
Um,
mean the majority of sport hunting. Well, there is a way for people, if you have money, to legally sport hunt in almost every country in the
again, I'm
world.
talking about a majority of sport hunting. So sport hunting in a majority of places is punished. Sport hunting in a
No, it
majority of
isn't.
times is punished. Sport hunting in a majority of times, even in the places that are allowed, is punished, right? So a majority of sport hunting actually is punished for, right?
No, the
Um,
majority of sport hunting isn't punished for. I mean, it's hard to say that it isn't punished for, but in
so wait, you agree with me that a majority of places punish for sport hunting. You can't sport hunt in
no,
a majority
wait.
of places.
I say that most countries on today in the world have a way and regulate sport hunting, which means
Stop
that they
answering my
allow
question.
sport hunting.
I'm gonna ask again because everything you're saying is irrelevant. So, do you agree that in most places you cannot sport hunt and you will be punished for sport hunting? Yes.
You can if you do it in a certain way.
So I'm just asking you in most physical locations. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say places. So I'll specify places, physical locations. Those two things mean the same thing to me. So in most physical
Neću sad je,
locations,
spusti na miru.
are you punished for sport hunting? Yes or no?
Uh, I mean, in most places today you cannot even take a shit, so I don't see the point.
Gotcha. So it's just a yes or no question.
Uh, in that case, in most places, no, you cannot sport hunt if you save locations.
Okay.
But in most places, you cannot take a
I agree
shit.
that in most places
I mean,
you
like
can't
this one.
sport hunt. Okay. Now in most times of the year you can't sport hunt. Do we agree with that?
That depends on the species, but yeah, we can agree on that.
Yeah, yeah, it does depend on the species, but pretty commonly for most species, most times of the year you can't sport hunt, right? So we agree that most contexts of sport hunting that are available are outlawed and are punished for. Don't we agree that this thing is going to be
Yeah,
and we
pussy.
agree that that's going to continue to be the case throughout the future, right? And that they might even be more outlawed, more punishable, more regulated, more restricted, right? In the future, right?
Uh,
Why is it not the case
I
that
don't
most
have any
contexts
reason to think that sport hunting tags would go out of existence.
No, I don't think they. I never said they would go out of existence. Even if they stay exactly as regulated as they are, most contexts in which you could sport hunt are outlawed, right? So if most forms of sport hunting are punished for and are outlawed, right? Then I just don't.
Man,
See
most
why.
opportunities for me to take a piss are outlawed, so I don't see what the point is.
No, I agree. It almost seems like punishment probably isn't a good way to determine whether something is immoral.
It is if when you aggregate the data enough.
I'm gonna cry. So if we aggregate the data throughout all of human future, right? And we agree that
You cannot
all of
aggregate
human
the
future.
no,
Hold
wait,
on.
no, no.
If we
I
can,
don't.
if we can predict, hold on. If we can predict, because you agree, predicting the future is pretty important here, right? If we can predict that in the all of human future, right, that it's going to be either equally outlawed, right, or it's going to be more restrictive, right, which is either one of those is going to be the case. It's not going to be less restrictive, which is obviously the case, right?
Well, it could. We don't
So
know,
it's going to
but
be
it's
equally
more
or
likely.
more restricted, right, throughout all of human future, right? And we agree that human future lasts pretty long, right? Then aren't we going to agree that sport hunting is just going to be considered like immoral?
Uh, I don't think that. First of all, predicting future is very hard, and those predictions are very iffy. And first of all, and second of all, future doesn't give you data. You cannot have scientific data of the future, right? You can only have
We can have
predictions.
scientific predictions about the future, and that can be data for current things, right? So
Uh,
if
no,
if
it
we say
can't.
something like, yeah, if we say something like, in the future, humans are, yeah, if we say in the future humans are not going to do slavery, right? That gives me reason to believe that now people don't really, or not only in the future, but now and in the future, people aren't going to do slavery. That gives me reason to believe that people generally aren't predisposed towards slavery, and the reason we did that was probably pretty specific to the time that it was happening, right? So that can give me like reason to believe, right? So if we have, and let's even just assume, right? If we assume it's the case, right? Because all of human history and all of the human future, if we know the future, then the future is a data point, right?
But we don't know the future.
The only reason the future is not going to be a data point is if we don't know it, right? So if me and you both agree that it's very likely that in the future, sport hunting, a majority of sport hunting is going to be illegal, then we agree that it's very likely that sport hunting is immoral.
I don't think that we can use future as that because again, it is our prediction.
No, that's not
I
how you're
don't
lying to
think.
yourself.
I
You're
don't
lying. You're
think.
lying to yourself. You're lying. You're lying. So listen,
How am I lying?
that's just going to be wrong because if we're talking about the aggregate of all human behavior, the future is included in all human behavior. I agree. The reason we don't use it as a data point is because we don't know the future, right? I agree with that.
Okay,
If
so we
we
don't
knew the
know it.
future, if we knew the future, we would use it as a data point, correct?
Yeah, if we knew it, we would use it as a data point.
So instead of saying we know, we could just say if X future is likely, then X thing is likely, right? If we know the future, then we know that X thing is the case. If X thing is likely in the future, then X thing is likely the case. So if it's likely in the future, and we agree, I hope we agree, if it's likely in the future, right, that most sport hunting is going to be illegal, right? Then it's
What do you mean
sport
most?
hunting is immoral.
But then everything basically will be immoral. I mean, if
Do
you
you not
keep,
understand that this is the implication of your moral system? That you're criticizing the implication of your moral system?
but if I were to take that as a data point, I don't think that it is. I don't think it is reasonable to take
Then why
prediction.
is okay?
Wait, no, wait.
Why you never answered my question? So if it's very likely that in the future most sport hunting will be illegal, then it's very likely that sport hunting is immoral. Yes or no?
I well, if most uh, it is I don't it is okay. It is likely that if that is, it is likely that it is. Of course, it will have to be a long time. But okay.
Okay, so we agree then. If it's likely that most sport hunting will be illegal in the future, then it's likely that sport hunting is immoral. Yes?
Yo, fuck. Oh, finally, I know that there is something why this is so strange. Ugh.
Do you
Uh,
agree with that? Do you agree with that?
sorry. Uh, uh, I think that that would also be in the that I think that only way that it can come to be that way. So I retract my previous statement. I think that only way that it can be that way is through cultural influence. I don't think that it can be from the moral instinct. So it cannot be from evolutionary trait. So it cannot be the true morality. It can only be through enforcement of uh, through enforcement of uh, uh, norm, and that norm, of course, will be a data point, but it will be a single data point. And forever, however long that takes, if it is still the same cultural influence, it will just be a single data point.
Gotcha. So we have one data point that people didn't punish it before. We have another data point that people did punish it after. So how do we deal with that?
Uh, every
No
culture,
idea?
every cultural action is one data point, right? So it is just one data point.
Gotcha. So we have one data point that cultures before didn't punish it. We have another data point that cultures after did punish it. So how do we determine whether it's immoral? We compare them to
Majority of data
what we
points,
compare
right?
them against.
Majority of data points.
What?
Majority of data points. We put the
No, no, no.
data.
We only have two data points. We have one data point, which is that cultures did punish it. We have another data point that cultures didn't punish it. Okay.
No. That would only be if there is only like two cultures, but there is more than two cultures,
I
right?
agree. So if we agree there are multiple cultures currently that exist, okay? And if a majority of cultures, which they currently do, continue to punish a vast majority of sport hunting,
It
then
is debatable if multiple cultures exist today. I mean, influential cultures.
it's such a truth. It's debatable that multiple cultures existed ever. It's debatable.
No, not ever, but today it is very debatable due to the globalization and especially legal dissemination of legal practice, Western legal practice.
Okay,
And
I don't
also,
think we're gonna.
you today,
I genuinely don't think we're gonna get anywhere.
and also today we have centralized, uh, um, uh, say it, lawmaking bodies that we didn't have before, which also skews the data, right?
I just don't. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere. If you really agree that if we're gonna get to the point where yeah, we just don't have that many cultures nowadays. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like realistically, if it's not gonna be what a
I
majority
mean,
of
we
people
have,
are
but they
doing,
are.
listen, if it's not gonna be what a majority of people are doing, and it's gonna be what a variety of cultures are doing, we could have if we have it be the case that 10 really bad cultures who really like raping people. Now let's say actually we can do this. Okay, so let's say we have 10 different cultures who really love raping people. Yay rape. That's what these cultures are saying. Okay, they love raping people. Each of these cultures has two people in it. Okay, they're just two people who are in some weird sort of relationship. Okay, and there are 10 of these. There are 20 people in all who are saying this, right? And then we have one big global culture which is anti-rape, and they've been anti-rape throughout rape isn't immoral because there's only one culture. There's only one culture that's punishing rape, and there are 10 other cultures that aren't punishing rape. The amount of people in the culture is irrelevant. You would say that it's not immoral to rape people because the majority of cultures in that case aren't punishing it, correct?
If data points were distributed that way, I would certainly say that those data points are not relevant.
Wait, what data points aren't relevant?
If data points are, I wouldn't look at data points like that, like I do in
Okay,
today's.
like the amount of people in a culture is probably pretty relevant to whether we consider it as a point, right?
It is relevant, of course,
Gotcha.
but it is not.
The entire world, even if the entire world is one culture, if the entire world is punishing something, what are we really going to say that it doesn't matter because the entire world?
Well, in that, like after that point, it would, in that case, it would just, the morality would just be synonymous with cultural morality at that point.
The morality is going to be synonymous in what the punishment is. So I agree
Yeah,
that it is going to be synonymous with the culture at that point, right?
yeah.
So if you agree then that the majority of the world is going to be punishing the majority of the world is going to be punishing sport hunting, right? In the future, or if it's likely that the majority of the world is going to be punishing sport hunting, a majority of sport hunting for the rest of the future or whatever, right? Then we agree that sport hunting is probably immoral, right? Because the majority of the world is going to be punishing it for a majority of the time.
Well, yeah, also pissing.
Also, what?
Also taking a piss.
Yeah, I agree. You agree that it's going to be immoral, right? That's going to be the implication of your moral system.
Yeah, if giving enough data points, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't know why you mentioned that. I agree that you agree that pissing is going to be generally immoral, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't, okay.
I mean, do you understand? Like, you keep doing this as like a reductio. Oh, it's like also pissing, also.
Yeah,
That's
but no, I still,
with your moral system.
yeah, but I don't see what is the problem with the system. The system still has the same function that it basically always did.
Gotcha. You understand then that the implication of your system is also that currently it is very likely that certain methods for killing animals are immoral, or certain types of animal killing is immoral.
That can be, but I don't think that it is the case. I don't think that it is as uh, uh, well. If you go back to the um, yeah, I think that due to the fact that killing animals is very legally regulated, yeah, that is if we will use future as a data point, then yeah, whatever because future is almost infinitely long. We can say, however we perceive the future to be, however we perceive the future to be, we awfully skew the data in any direction. So yeah, basically, if we use the future as a data point, we can say that anything is or is not moral.
Yeah, but it's not like we're unreasonably using it. You agree with me that it's likely that the future is going to be that way?
I mean, I don't. Let's say I'm perfectly saying that the next 50 years will be that way. I don't know what will happen between the year 10,000 and 20 billion thousand.
I mean, like very likely. If we want to be realistic about what's going to happen, like obviously we're not going to continue to kill animals for food.
We don't know.
We're gonna stop doing that because it's gonna be inefficient, right? Like in 10,000 years from now, if humans are still alive, right? Humans are not gonna be killing animals or even farming.
Well, humans could be. Man, in 10,000 years, people could be killing animals throughout 10,000 solar systems.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's obviously not gonna happen.
Yes, I don't think that it is that is obvious that it will not happen. I'm perfectly willing to predict things for the next 50 years, but predicting things for the next 50 years wouldn't significantly skew the data. And after the 50 years, I'm not willing to make a prediction.
It seems to me that current more important and more relevant because as society gains more knowledge, both about ethical values or whatever,
I don't think that
just
you can have knowledge.
just about empirical data, society generally tends to progress in a way which is going to be more ethical, right? So
No, no, I
um,
disagree with that. I disagree with that strongly.
I just don't know what to tell you.
I don't think.
Generally, I think wait, sorry. Do you disagree that generally society is more ethical than it was before? Like I don't know, 500
I
years ago.
think that society today is more in line with today's cultural norms, which is not at all surprising.
Wait, society what?
Society today is more in line with today's cultural norms. That's not surprising, right? But I don't think that.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I forgot that the ethical description here is going to be cultural norms. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think society has ever made ethical progression under that definition, right? And ethical progression is actually just impossible under that definition, which is fine. But I just, it's not going to be, again, it's not going to be relevant to me when the definition of ethics that we're using isn't going to allow for things like ethical progression. It's not going to be descriptive of what most people are talking about when they're talking about ethics, and when it allows for reductives that are going to be pretty problematic for the position. But I mean, it doesn't even matter because even under the definition, the proposition that we were debating was that killing animals is amoral, right? And it seems like it's pretty clear to me that given specific context, that killing animals is going to be considered immoral under this system, or that we have strong reason to believe that killing animals is going to be immoral under this system, right? Because it's likely going to be punished for in the future, and is currently punished for, and has been punished for a pretty decent amount of years. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, I don't think that next 50 years, which is the only time frame that I'm willing to make a prediction for, uh, I don't think that that would skew the data in any significant way. Uh, Second one is you can the best thing that in any timeline or any uh, circumstance that best incorporates how the widespread use of the word morality is basically cultural relativism. Uh, that is just like trivially true. And I don't think that skewing or putting aside cultural relativism, that uh, ethical progression can be proven other than like your own personal wish, which is again heavily skewed by culture. So
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, I just don't think we're going to get anywhere. Your conception of ethics is just very unrelated to what most people are talking about. I agree that
I mean,
cultural relativism is probably true, but that doesn't make anything that you're saying indicative of really much about morality at all, right? Like even if morality is going to be pretty culturally relative, the way that you're using it isn't generally the way that people. It's not even remotely close, actually, to the way that people are using it when they talk about cultural relativism in most cases. So. I mean, I don't know. It feels like we got to a pretty reasonable conclusion. So
yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
it's still, if we agree with cultural relativism, killing
I'm not
animals.
saying it wouldn't be cultural relativism. It's just not indicative of what a vast majority of people are talking about, including cultural relativists. So.
Yeah,
Anyone we can finish up? If you
Yeah,
have
dude,
any
we're good.
questions, continue on.
yeah, I think we have said everything that we had to say.
Okay, what's your question?
Who are you asking?
IsFreeMason. I heard Sebi mention that you would want me to have vegans have apps. Show me some vegans that have apps. Show me your app specifically.
Yeah, I'm not gonna show you my abs, but I can show you some vegans that do.
I mean, I know some vegans have apps because they fucking bodybuild and shit, right? Some of them, right?
Okay,
Do
well,
you
I don't
want
know
me?
what to tell you then. If that's not gonna be acceptable, I don't know what to tell you. Most people don't have abs. Most people who aren't vegan don't have abs. Most people who are vegan don't have
I'm
abs. So
sorry.
if
Can
you're
I
not
can I
looking,
can you
if you're not
can
looking, if you're not looking for a minority of cases, oh, he's fine. Well, just to
hello?
be clear, that guy wasn't looking for a minority of cases. I don't know what he's looking for. What's up? Okay, I just lost my internet.
Go ahead and ask a question.
I met a threat that a laser will shoot you on Mars and it got removed or got higher peak level. Will those standards be lowered?
I have no idea what you're talking about, so good luck with that.
Okay.
Genuinely no idea.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Wait, can you get Comap back in? Because I don't know if Comap is just like trolling. Oh yeah, he's definitely trolling. I mean, we can get him back in. I don't.
Okay, so your point saying what? How many people have did you say? Not many. 15
Yeah, not that
15?
many. Yeah, not that many people have abs. Yeah.
Visible abs.
Well, it's gonna depend on what you mean. Yeah, visible abs, sure. If you're talking about like muscular abs, then no. But yeah, like anorexic people have abs, right? So I mean, if that's gonna count as having abs, then yeah, I guess yeah, a
Between
lot of people.
2% of the world's population has a visible has a six pack, right? 10 to 15% of the world has abs. So I don't know where you're getting this statistic saying that
Well,
not every.
everyone has abs. I don't know what you mean by visible. When I think of visible
When I
abs,
say
I'm thinking of
visible,
like a
I mean
when I think of visible abs, I'm thinking of like a full muscular six pack. Okay.
Most people who have abs just have abs due to basically poor diet and physical labor.
Yep.
That's what gives you the abs.
I can't point to too many vegans who have literal abs. I mean, shit,
All right,
I know
that's good for you,
a
Comap.
lot.
That's actually awesome that you can't do that.
I have abs.
Okay, well, crazy.
I don't eat it, and I exercise a lot. It's all down to balance, exercise.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't think I've seen too many vegans that actually have abs outside of the ones who professionally lift and shit.
That's actually so crazy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Do you have data on it? Like, is there anything relevant? Is there anything relevant to discuss here?
Well, again, you made the claim that vegans that not specific vegans, but you made the claim that vegans have abs. Sebi did, right?
I never made the. I have no idea what you're talking about, bro.
Okay, so Sebi went into a bunch of separate channels and said basically that they were praising that vegans have abs and shit, and
Oh, he
why.
was probably trolling. I was debating.
Hold on.
I was debating whether. Debating whether. I was debating whether killing animals. I was debating whether killing animals is immoral.
Okay, cool.
Does a
Excellent.
lion feel immoral for killing a gazelle? No.
No,
So
they
it's
don't
what we
generally.
say.
Not sure how to tell that. So.
Thank you, everyone. That was good.
Comap, I did not sir.
Huh?